Your Eminence, Your Graces, Reverend members of the seminary faculty, venerable fathers and mothers, administrators and staff members, students, beloved brothers and sisters in Christ. Christ is risen.
Indeed is risen.
At the bidding of our rector, His Eminence Bishop Auxentius, I shall offer some remarks on the occasion of yet another milestone in the history of the St. Photios Orthodox Theological Seminary, namely our third commencement ceremony, to which I warmly welcome all of you. In the context of this joyous event, we will formally confer degrees and certificates on the members of the class of 2023, the third group of students to graduate from the Bachelor of Theology Program. Since a very memorable academic year, 2020 to 2021, during which we were granted accreditation, the seminary has continued to grow and prosper in many different ways. In particular, we've been blessed with the addition to our staff of two gifted siblings and exemplary members of our church, Esther and Timothy Shinoni, who have each contributed abundantly to our ongoing development as an institution of higher education. Esther as librarian, and Timothy as digital media and visual marketing specialist. To add to the joy of our own students' graduation, Esther herself has also just graduated with the degree of Master of Library and Information Science from the San Jose State University, an accomplishment which we'll be celebrating also shortly. Furthermore, the initiative and under the supervision of Mother Justina, a splendid Iconography Certificate Program was inaugurated in the fall of 2021. This new venture has already borne much good fruit and will continue to do so in the coming years. And tomorrow, we embark upon an exciting new phase in our corporate life with the launch of the Seminary Expansion Campaign, A Light in the Darkness. Looking further to the future, we face yet another milestone in 2026, namely what we hope will be the reaffirmation of our initial accreditation. To this end, we aim to show that we are an even better school than we were 2 years ago. With this in mind, we're proposing that in tandem with our anticipated expansion of the physical seminary facility, we also expand our program offerings. Specifically, we propose to reshape our existing graduate program, the Master of Theological Studies, and rebrand it as a Master of Divinity degree, a degree which has over several decades become the standard professional qualification for priesthood and ministry in North America. This will make it possible for applicants who have already possess a baccalaureate to complete their studies in 3 years rather than taking 3 or 4 years to earn another bachelor's degree. It's also our hope that this redesigned master's degree will attract men of greater maturity and with more life experience who, should they prove suitable candidates for the priesthood, could be ordained and assigned to parishes and missions which are very much in need of clergy. There's still work to be done in hammering out some of the details of the master's degree, but we are pleased to assure everyone that we'll reactivate our graduate program this September, when we will welcome 4 students, all of whom have passed through the bachelor's program at the seminary and done the necessary coursework necessary for the master's degree. Thus, they will be able to complete their studies in 2 rather than 3 years. We also envisage, eventually, the development of a Bachelor of Arts degree with a common core of theological and general studies for all students, with majors in areas such as history, philosophy, classical studies, and, all being well, eventually, psychology. Another proposal is the introduction of a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in iconography, which will be innovative in the best sense of the word, and which will, to our knowledge, be the first of its kind in North America. We are confident that such degree programs will boost our enrollment and our revenue stream as well. They will, in addition, serve to make the case for the reaffirmation of our accreditation all the more persuasive. Last but not least, on behalf of the Board of Directors and the faculty, I wish to offer warmest congratulations to both of the graduating students who are performing exceptionally well in their studies, completing all the requirements for the bachelor's program. Whatever capacity our Saviour calls you to serve in the vineyard of His Holy Church, I am confident that you will make an admirable contribution to the promotion of our Church's witness in these challenging times in which we live. And I exhort you to endeavour to emulate St. Photius by contributing to the fulfilment of one of our institutional goals, that is, the cultivation of a lifelong study of Orthodox theology. I would now like to welcome to the podium to deliver the commencement address our honoured guest, His Grace Bishop Seraphim of Sozopol in Bulgaria. In addition to assisting His Eminence Metropolitan Photios of Triadica, the first hierarch of the All-Calendar Church of Bulgaria, one of our sister churches, and a visiting professor at the seminary, His Grace is likewise on the faculty of the seminary in the capacity of a visiting lecturer and serves also as faculty translator for Bulgarian and Russian. So I welcome His Grace, Bishop Seraphim, to come to the podium.
Your
Eminence, Your Grace, Reverend Fathers and Mothers, esteemed faculty, administration, students and friends of the St. Photios Orthodox Theological Seminary. Christ is risen. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to congratulate you on the day of the annual graduation of the undergraduate program. I have the pleasant duty of conveying you the best sentiments and blessings of His Eminence Metropolitan Photios Triadice, who has a deep love and affection for this seminary, for its founder, the late Most Reverend Chrysostomus, Metropolitan of Etna, and for all of you who constitute its present and build its future. We are all called to apostolic witness, regardless of the particular role we have in the Church. Theological schools are called to be centers of Orthodox missionary, theological, and spiritual witness. The mission of enlightenment is directed to those who do not know Christ, to the non-Orthodox Christians, and to the traditionalist Christians whose faith is in need of enlightenment, direction, and support. The seminary is providentially named after the equal to the Apostle Saint Photios the Great. Saint Photios was a luminary of enlightenment, a font of piety, a defender of orthodoxy. And as we know from the history of the Church, he played a decisive role in the missionary work of the Holy Brothers, Cyril and Methodius, among the Western Slavs in the Principality of Great Moravia, and as well as in the subsequent conversion of the Bulgarians and the establishment of Orthodoxy in medieval Bulgaria. And the seminary, following the example of its patron, develops both external and internal missionary activity. It functions in the New World in a non-Orthodox microenvironment, but at the same time it is a potential center of theological education for us, the true Orthodox in the Old World, who in the long years of struggle for existence under conditions of repression and restriction, both in Greece and in former communist countries such as Romania, Bulgaria, Ukraine, and the Russian Federation, have not been able to establish our own theological educational centers. A fundamental criterion of the quality of an Orthodox theological institution is the degree to which there is unity between the pursuit of theology, ad mentem patrum, according to Father George Florovsky's famous expression, and spiritual praxis, the overall effort to live according to the gospel. This is why, in addition to being an academic institution, the seminary was created to be a center of spiritual life that would convey the flame of faith and piety to its students. And it does this by fostering an authentic ascetic spiritual tradition of the interior spiritual life, by encouraging in Christian virtuousness, by living witness to how, through faith in Christ, seminarians can build an Orthodox worldview and embody it in their lives. I am convinced that all who receive their diplomas today know the Orthodox faith well and are able to pass on their knowledge to others. But faith is not only knowledge. I would like to recall the following words of St. John of Damascus from his famous work, An Exact Exposition of the Orthodox Faith. Moreover, faith is twofold. For faith comes by hearing. For by hearing the divine scriptures, we believe in the teaching of the Holy Spirit. The same is perfected by all the things enjoined by Christ, believing in work, cultivating piety, and doing the commands of Him who restored us. For he that believes not according to the tradition of the Catholic Church, or who has intercourse with the devil through strange works, is an unbeliever. But again, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, or undoubting and unambiguous hope alike of what God has promised us and of the good issue of our prayers. The first, therefore, belongs to our will, while the second is of the gifts of the Spirit. And so, faith is a gracious contemplation of the heart, a higher spiritual sense that transcends reason, a true knowledge given and strengthened by God according to the will and the asceticism of a Christian. By studying the theological disciplines, we broaden the scope of our knowledge of the faith. By perceiving what is taught, we grow in the first kind of faith, that which we receive by hearing and which we accept by assenting to its content. If we mature in it and purify our souls, we, in synergy with the grace of the Holy Spirit, deepen, strengthen, and perfect our faith. Open our hearts to faith as a gift of the Spirit, and it becomes the guiding principle in all aspects of our lives. Therefore, dear graduates, with all your efforts, labors, diligence, will, the best years of your life which you have devoted to spiritual and theological formation, you have acquired, perceptibly or not, the leaven of faith, the foundation of the Orthodox worldview, which leads along the road, protects from unhealthy influences from the left and from the right, and incorporates you more fully into the teaching and the life of the Church. Regardless of your future role in the Church, you have become good and smooth stones for her building. And seeing your good intention and effort, God will sanctify your life with His blessing. By completing the seminary course, you have gained spiritual fruits. Guard these fruits and multiply them in humility, for knowledge inadvertently produces exaltation, and pride defiles everything acquired. Keep chaste fidelity to Christ, and this chastity will preserve your faith. Saint Seraphim, the wonder worker of Sofia, one of the great theologians of the last century, said that the ability to theologize in an orthodox way is directly proportional to chastity. Chastity, both as a state of integrity and health of the mind, and as purity and freedom from passions and lusts, makes chaste Christians especially insightful about the truths of the faith. I wish for the graduates of the undergraduate program and for all the students that the light of faith may illuminate your lives, that you may build piety upon piety, faith upon faith, and receive grace upon grace. By the prayers of the luminary of the Orthodox faith, the equal to the apostles, the Patriarch of Constantinople, Saint Photios the Confessor. Thank you for your attention.
Hello, everyone. Christ is risen.
Indeed he is risen.
Today, I am going to tell you all the story of how I became a librarian. So, the story begins in May 2013. I was 21 years old and was graduating with a bachelor's degree in business administration with an emphasis on accounting. And I remember that day well as a day where I felt nothing. I had a difficult time in college and had wanted to quit my major and switch it on multiple occasions, but I never did. I remember going to certain classes and not understanding a single word that was being said. It was all like a foreign language to me, but I kept with it and graduated. I wasn't excited and I had no ambition, no interest in a career or in making lots of money. Months after I graduated, I applied for a position at my local public library and eventually got my first job as a part-time shelver. Soon after that, I got an additional job as a part-time office assistant dealing with first-time homebuyer loans. I was in both of these positions simultaneously for 5 years. 2 years after getting these jobs, I had saved up enough money to travel, something I had always wanted to do, and for the first time in my life, my sisters and I left the west coast of America on a pilgrimage to Romania, Bulgaria, and Greece, where we met some incredible people, including a 17-year-old girl who was very mature for her age. Teodora now Athanasiou, was our first true GOC friend who was close to the age of my sisters and me. After that trip, my sisters and I would continue to travel to GOC events with Theodora. We went to the 2016 Youth and Family Conference in New York, where I met my future friend and colleague, Gabrielle Asgharian, now Bushnell. The next year in 2017, we all went to the Youth and Family Conference that took place in New Hampshire. This conference, in particular, greatly impacted my future. It was at this conference that I met a 17-year-old girl named Kira Rapp, who was incredibly enthusiastic about becoming a student at St. Photios Orthodox Theological Seminary. Father Peter Bushnell gave a speech about the seminary, which I was very excited about. However, I came back home with a strong feeling of dissatisfaction, and I came to the realization that all I was doing in my life was earning money to go on trips, have several days of spiritual enlightenment and fun, and then go back to work so that I could go on another trip. I loved my library job. I couldn't stand my office job. I would go to church every Sunday, but there was no Orthodox community there besides the monks and a couple of older lay people. I didn't feel as if I had much else to strive towards. And much of what I distracted myself with was pop culture and fandoms. There was always something missing, and though I didn't know it at the time, I know now that I was looking for a purpose, for a meaning in my life. And so I found myself searching. But the first place I looked was not the church, but the adult nonfiction section of the library with all of its self-help books. It was during this time period that I discovered Jordan Peterson, who continues to be the best discovery to come out of that entire phase. But even then, I would not start following his 12 rules for life until I came to Etna. But I'm jumping too far ahead. So back to 2017. I had reached a dilemma. I was going to turn 26, after which I would no longer be covered by my parents' health insurance. And so I needed a full-time job. I still wasn't ambitious, so what was I going to do? I had never applied for a higher position at the library because it would mean possibly working on Sundays, and it would also mean going back to school. And I really didn't like school, and I couldn't stand writing. However, through the great encouragement from several of my librarian coworkers and supervisor and the assurance that I could switch my Sunday shifts, I made the decision to go back to school and become a librarian. And at the time, my goal was to become a children's librarian. I applied for a library assistant position, which is a step higher than a shelver. At the age of 26, this was my very first job promotion, and it was still a part-time job, but I was getting some of my health insurance covered, so I was able to quit my office job and apply to San Jose State University for my master's. My first application was denied. I was 0.08 points away from being accepted. If I had only tried harder to get more A's in college, I would have made it. Instead, I had to go back to my community college and take some classes to boost my GPA. So that worked, and I applied a second time, and I was denied again. This time, it was because I had sent my application in too late to get accepted into the fall semester, so I had to wait several more months, and on my third attempt at applying, I finally got in. Several weeks after finding out that I had gotten into the master's program, I was approached by a towering but friendly man who, for some reason, who was very interested in the fact that I was pursuing a degree in librarianship. I suppose it's because he was also a librarian who was juggling several different jobs all at the same time. His initials are Father Gregory. During this same meeting, my siblings were discussing with His Eminence, Bishop Auxentius and Father Gregory, the idea of a conference in Etna and a documentary about the seminary. 2 months later, I visited the seminary for the first time in my life with my siblings Timothy and Ruthie. I was completely blown away by everything I saw. I felt like I was at a university in England or something, and everything was so clean. The library was definitely my favorite place in the whole building, and I was told by Father Gregory that I could work there someday, which is a statement I never forgot. In fact, when I went back to my public library job, I was working on a staff board, which is a board with everyone's names on it and faces and of all the people who work there. And the picture I used for myself was one of me standing in the library at the seminary, because I thought that was my future. Then 2020 happened. I had finally started my master's, and there was this incredible conference in Etna that to me was the best experience I had since the pilgrimage to Romania, Bulgaria, and Greece back in 2015. I remember leaving the conference with so much hope. But it was 2020, which for most people was a pretty difficult year. For me, it was the darkest period of my life. Bad things were happening almost daily. I recently found a journal entry that I wrote in 2018, 2 years before 2020, that said, I really haven't been praying. I don't read the Bible, and there are days when I don't even make the sign of the cross. So I feel that even though I haven't stopped going to church, I have lost my faith in God. So there were aspects of my faith that had already been deteriorating. And in 2020, I found myself in much grief and despair. And in those moments, the only thing that could give me some consolation was to read the lives of the saints, such as St. Silouan the Athanite, and to pray like I've never prayed before. This went on for 9 months, until the last week of May 2021. In the beginning of that week, I had sketched an icon of St. Nona of Nazianzus, and I prayed a prayer, begging to be relieved of my struggles. A couple of days later, I visited Etna, and I recall a moment where I was in the car with Teodora. And Theodora asked me if I would ever consider moving to Etna. At that point, my perspective on the seminary had changed, and I had no desire to work here. During that dark period, I had developed many negative feelings and views towards this place, so I told her that I would never want to move here. The next day, Father Gregory asked my siblings and me if we would like to go see Kangaroo Lake, which I thought was an odd but very nice invitation. We agreed, and when I went to get into the car, Father Gregory said, "Esther, I'm going to steal you." Immediately, I knew what was going to happen, and it did. Father Gregory asked me if I would accept the position as the librarian of St. Photios Orthodox Theological Seminary. And I said yes. Never in my life have I ever made such a life-changing decision that quickly and without hesitation. I had been praying very intensely for what seemed like a very long time, and I had never, until that moment in my life, felt so strongly that my prayers had been answered. That day was June 6th. Why is that date significant, you might ask? Well, if you've read the most recent publication of Orthodox tradition, you will find that there is an article near the end which explains that June 6th, which is May 24 in the old calendar, is the feast day of my patron saint, Saint Esther. But both Father Gregory and I were unaware of that fact until months later when I brought it up to Father Gregory and he did enough research on it to write an article about it in Orthodox tradition. So I moved to Etna and went from being a library assistant to a librarian while still working on my master's. I knew that coming here would mean taking on an immense amount of responsibilities, including speeding up my master's program. I have never been so consistently busy, and yet through all of the temptations that arise here, and there are many, I have also never felt so much fulfillment in my life than when I moved here. I am constantly challenged and doing things that I never thought I could do. For a place known for its many rules, I have never felt so much freedom since many of the things I do here are done with a blessing. Now I have ambition, a strong desire to help the seminary with its mission to help the church and to bring others closer to God. I find meaning in what I do every day, which is something I never thought I would find in a profession. I didn't think that was possible. I remember days when I would be at my office job and wishing I could do something more, and especially wishing that I could do something for the church. I never imagined that becoming a librarian could be a way in which I could accomplish that. As I tell people every now and then, I don't think it can get any better than this, and yet it continues to. So, glory to God for all things, and especially the dark times that drew me closer to Him. And now I would like to thank some people. First of all, my parents, my mom for instilling in me the importance of education and for helping me get my first library job. And to my dad for passing on his nerdiness and taking my siblings and me to the library every week until we learned how to drive and take ourselves to the library. But more importantly, for driving us to church every Sunday, which was 2 hours up a mountain and where I would get car sick almost every time. But those temptations were worth it because they helped to teach me to be serious about serious things. And there's the rest of my family, my siblings and extended family, Rachel, Ruthie, Tim, Thomas, Tony, Vasily, and Teodora. Teodora and Vasily. I'm so excited to see you graduate. So thank you all for your support and for being here, especially my little goddaughter. And I also have to make a special mention of my youngest sister in particular for continuing to inspire me. Thank you to my colleagues, both past and present, Gabrielle and Alexei Vushno, and once again my brother Tim. I really never thought I would end up working with my relatives, biological and now spiritual. And really, it's just very cool to have coworkers who go to the same church as you. I'd also like to thank Mother Helen for continuing to be an immense help to me and to the library in general. And I need to mention all my other helpers, Tatiana, Brother Jeffrey, Samuel, and just very recently, Nectarios. So thank you for your help. It's very needed and appreciated. Thank you to the students, some of whom are my roommates, Tatiana and Helen, and my past roommates, Kira and Xenia. Thank you for continuing to endure me, especially during this last term, which was quite challenging. And I have to thank all the donors of the seminary for all their contributions. This place would not continue to run without the help of the donors, and I hope that everybody who works and attends the seminary can understand the impact that this place has on the church in general as well as in each one of us individually. So, thank you to Bishop Auxentius, Bishop Sergius, Father Akakios, Father Patapios, Father Patrick, Father Parthenius, Father Moses, Mother Justina, and really every monastic in this community for all of your prayers and encouragement through the years. And massive thank you to my spiritual father, Father Gregory, for listening to all of my rants and for continuing to challenge and push me to reach my potential, which I know I have yet to do, and for telling me to hydrate. Finally, I would like to thank the late Presbytera Katina Petitsis, who stated these 3 things before her passing that I keep on the background of my phone so that I can always remind myself of them. God's hand is in everything. God knows what he's doing. We need to take a step back and let him do it. Thank you.
Forgive me, this is not part of the program, but I wanted to take this opportunity to acknowledge somebody very worthy of celebration today, Esther, who I know spoke for herself very beautifully, but I think we are all so grateful, and we want to express our love for you and our honor for the accomplishments that you have. We're very grateful and proud of you. So I wrote something up, but Esther already shared a lot about her story, so I won't reshare because I can't do it the way she did. But, one of the things Esther mentioned was that she was supposed to graduate in a long time. I think it was 2025 that she was planning to graduate. And she was working as a librarian before she came here and going to school. But in that context, Esther had to really take things slowly with school. She had to sort of take baby steps towards graduation because Esther doesn't like to do things half-heartedly. She does things well. And in order to do her job well at the public library and to do her schooling well, she had to take it really slow. But 2 years early that's a pretty quick acceleration. And this is something that I think speaks to Esther's character and also to the grace that God gives people who serve the church. So Esther, unlike many people who try to take on something new, she didn't have to sacrifice one thing in order to succeed in the other. She committed to things that she believed were beyond her capacity because she understood that it was the right thing to do. And she just steadily took on more and more responsibility when she got here. She was the librarian. Oh, great. But then suddenly she needs to accelerate her program. She's taking on way more classes than she ever has. That already seems like too much. But then Esther takes on more roles. She's a leader. She's a natural leader, in my opinion. And she's a leader in the student housing. She's a leader in our hospitality efforts. She's totally taken over leadership of event management. And you would think that that this is impossible for one person to do. But I think Esther probably, if she was someone proposed all these roles to her, would say, no way, not me. I'm not capable of that. But Esther has gone far beyond what she suspected she was capable of. And the only explanation I can come up with for that is that Esther is called to do this. And when someone is called and they answer the call, then all the saints answer with them. It's not just them doing the work. And Esther was able to answer that call because she has not just started working now, but she started working throughout her life, and her family, like she said, started preparing her for these responsibilities and for her to be able to answer that call with the help that she needs in order to do it well, by building a relationship with the saints throughout her life. And so I hope that as I have been doing, I hope everyone else can reflect on who Esther is and what she's become, and see the way that she does that she's not doing it alone, and try to reflect that spirit in our own lives when we're called to serve, which is the expected result of pursuing a godly life. So thank you, Esther. Thank you for everything that you do for us, and congratulations. We're very proud of you.
Christ is risen. So I am Mother Justina, and I am the head of the Iconography Program at the seminary. And I'm here to speak about Teodora. So Theodora made the decision to enroll at St. Photios Seminary because we had classes in iconography. She had an interest in painting icons and took this opportunity to learn enrolling in our certificate programs. Due to her dedication and hard work in the icon program, Theodora received a scholarship which was made possible because of one of our generous donors. Very soon after she started the other classes at the seminary pertaining to her theology degree, she realized that everything she learned at school enriched her understanding of iconography. Well done, Theodora, for completing the Bachelor Program in Theology and 2 certificates in iconography. 1 certificate in the theoretical understanding of icons, and 1 certificate in the practical application of iconography. A few pieces of her works are outside this, and I hope you all will take a little time and look at it. I'm very pleased to present Teodora Athanasiou with her Bachelor of Theology Diploma and her Certificate in Iconography. Well done, Theodora.
Thank you, Your Eminence, and thank you, Mother Justina, for your kind words. I can remember the few minutes I took after I submitted my last assignment, and I said, phew, I'm done. But in reality, I'm not done. If we take account the seminary's motto, it says, stand fast and hold the traditions which ye have been taught. And I know that I have to continue doing this and continue learning as a wife and as a mother in order to pass down my faith. I wanted to thank everyone for coming. I also wanted to thank the mothers, because I think my formation here at the seminary has really been, the mothers contributed a lot. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for the entire Edna community, really, because every single time I had a struggle or even wanted to celebrate a joy, passing a test or giving a presentation, everyone was there to help me and encourage me, and I've really felt the love and care from everybody. I wanted to thank Father Gregory for his spiritual guidance, and of course, as Esther said, listening to us, rant and and whatnot. And I wanted to thank my mother and siblings for taking care of Foti, because really, if I didn't have them here, I probably wouldn't be here right now. They watched him a lot during my classes and during my time having to complete homework. And I wanted to thank my husband so much for his encouragement and his love and support, and thank you all.
Your Eminence, Your Graces, Reverend members of the seminary faculty, venerable fathers and mothers, beloved brothers and sisters in Christ, again, Christ is risen.
Indeed he is risen.
I was asked to say a few words about Vasilios, and I do so with the greatest pleasure. He has proved to be an excellent student throughout his time at the St. Photios Seminary, and it's a matter of the greatest joy and satisfaction for all of us, whether administrators, faculty, staff, or his fellow seminarians. He has successfully completed his studies for the Bachelor of Theology degree, along with a minor in the Greek language. Vasilios, as you probably know, hails from Baltimore, Maryland, where he was raised in the Orthodox faith by a pious family. For many years, he served faithfully his home parish, the St. Nicholas the Mirror Orthodox Church in Upper Marlborough, Maryland, as an altar server. Already a devout young lay member of that church, just over 3 years ago, and sensing a calling from on high to lead a yet more serious life, and commit himself to serving the church more actively, Vasilios contacted the seminary, expressing an interest in our bachelor's program. He subsequently applied for admission, was accepted into the program. I can still remember from my interview with him the very favorable impression that he left on me, and especially his affability and warmth and enthusiasm, personal qualities which he has not only amply exhibited over the past 3 years, but has burnished even more fully for the edification and consolation of all who teach, work, and study at the seminary. He is always cheerful, ready to offer assistance to anybody who asks, and these are virtues which undoubtedly will stand in good stead in whatever capacity he serves the church after graduation. For me, though, what particularly marks out Vasilios, along with these admirable character traits, is his sheer dedication to learning, and by extension to teaching others. An important part of his bachelor's degree, one in which he takes justifiable pride, is a minor in the Greek language. Although of Greek provenance by way of his family background, Vasilios, like all our students, took a course in New Testament Greek during his first year. I think it would be fair to say that, as in the case of many of the students learning Greek, Vasilios at times didn't find it easy to assimilate this language and all the complexity of its grammar and vocabulary. The important point, however, is that he constantly put forth commendable efforts to improve his command of Greek and went on to take 3 further courses in advanced Greek. All of this hard work has enabled him to obtain a minor in the Greek language. Having had Vasilios as a student in ancient philosophy and patristics, I can attest to his talent in communicating profound ideas and themes. Particularly, I recall with delight the class presentation which he gave on the allegory of the cave in Plato's Republic. He truly savoured the arresting imagery of this famous passage and was resourceful enough to show its relevance to Orthodox theology and life. He gave an equally impressive presentation on several epistles by his heavenly patron, St. Basil the Great, and numerous very good reports on the orations of St. Gregory the Theologian. When I heard these presentations, I was struck by the thought that Vasilios had the potential to be a gifted teacher, and indeed, during the summer recess of 2022, he taught a class in church history at his home parish in Maryland, which was very well received by the parish priest, Father George Psaromatis, and members of the parish community who attended it. I'd be remiss if I failed to mention that during this time at the seminary, Vasilios entered into matrimony with his dear wife, Theodora, became the father of a beautiful child named in honor of St. Photios. Amidst all the responsibilities of marriage and family, Vasilios has brought his studies to a successful conclusion. I might add that he and Theodora have together cultivated the great Orthodox virtue of hospitality as residents of St. Melanie's student house. Finally, I'd like to note that Vasilios was Retention to Reader on the Feast of St. Photios back in February, along with his fellow seminarians, Nathan Weston and Jeffrey Chen, now Brother Jeffrey, and that he will be one of the students in the Master's program this September. We're very happy that he will remain part of our community, as will Theodora, for the next few years. So on behalf of His Eminence, Bishop Auxentius, and the entire faculty, administration, and staff of the St. Photios Seminary, I congratulate Vasilios heartily on his attainment of the Bachelor of Theology. And ask Bishop Auxentius to award him the degree.
would like to say a few words today about gratitude, because I didn't just fall out of the sky as a graduate of St. Photios Seminary. I have studied here for 3 years amidst amazing people who have dedicated a lot of time and effort to form me. With that said, I dug up my application essay to the seminary about an hour ago and saw that 3 years ago I said, "I believe everything that has happened to me in my life has come from above and has been guiding me towards this being the application of attending the seminary." Looking back now, I can say confidently that that was very true. Spending the past 3 years here has been an immense gift from God. There is really no greater gift that people can offer a young man than a firm foundation in his faith. And you all have given me that. In the spirit of keeping this brief, I'd like to also we'll jump straight to the thank yous. I'd like to thank every single instructor who has patiently labored to form me. Not an easy task. I'd like to thank all of the spot staff who facilitate the successful functioning of this amazing institution. I'd like to thank all the donors and benefactors who also help this institution run. I'd like to thank my family, who endured long phone calls with me and encouraged me along the way. I'd like to thank also my mother-in-law, who, as my wife mentioned, watched our son constantly, and my siblings-in-law, who also helped babysit. I'd like to thank my friends, Nathan, who spent the past, Nathan Weston, spent the past, how many hours in a week, 170 something, right next to me in the library, preparing our final essays. I'd like to thank, finally, my wife, who, without her, there's no way I'd be standing here right now. I really think, despite her words, that I graduated because of her and she graduated in spite of me. She's helped me in every single way, and if she thinks I've done minimal things to encourage her, well, thank God. Thank God for that. So maybe I'll say one final word about focus. This program has really taught me the importance of trying to be focused. You can't really multitask. That's a delusion of our time, I'd say. Focusing is the best thing that somebody can do if you're going to get something done in it. It's unfortunate that I only learned that in this last week. But nonetheless, I'll carry it with me for my whole life. So, to close, I want to quote St. Gregory the Theologian. Father Akakios, please correct me if I'm wrong, because we just studied this 2 weeks ago in your class. But he said, forgive me, he said, he asked his faithful to lead him by their words, guide them by their prayers, and establish them in their spirit. And you all have a most impressive Christian spirit that I'm only trying to attain to. And so that's how I'd like to close, with those words of St. Gregory. Please keep me in your prayers, all of you. Thank you.
Christos Haviat. I promise you just a few words. First of all, on behalf of the Brotherhood of St. Gregory Palamas, congratulations to Vasilios, Theodora, and Esther. I want to say that your accomplishment is not just personal. What you have achieved for the seminary, for our witness here in America, and for the greater good of the church. Please keep that in mind. The hard work that you have displayed, it's for the benefit of what goes beyond you. Secondly, the gifts that you have cannot be seen in a selfish way. You have to share those. You have classmates, you have faithful around you, your good disposition is infectious. So I commend you for that. And I would also ask that you keep in mind the meaning of our patron saint here at this monastery, this seminary, that your light will shine forth in all of your good works to the glory of God. Finally, I would be remiss if I didn't repeat the comments made previously about our debt of gratitude for the benefactors and donors of the seminary. We could not possibly achieve all that we have without their help. And I would only ask that you please remember all of them in your prayers. We owe them a tremendous debt that can only be repaid by God and His grace. So thank you. Christos Anesti.
Thank you. At this point in time, I've been asked on behalf of the seminary and the entire community here to give you, Teodora, and you, Vasilios, small gifts, which are tokens of our appreciation for all of the gifts that you have brought to this community as students, as members of the lay community and parishioners of the St. Cyprian and Justina Parish, and just members of the greater Orthodox community, and for all your hospitality that you have given to all of us at St. Melanie's house. The list could go on and on and on, but there's coffee and food waiting. So without any further ado, Theodora,